Okay. Let's talk a little bit. I'm gonna use my phone for this. Okay, this is educational. I have a graphing calculator on here. I've used it for decades. I used it in high school and I kept it. It's the best $2.99 that I spent on this app. Okay, but I just want to do this real quick. There's something called TVM solver. Let's say you start saving. Let's say you start saving when you're 20 years old. Okay, and let's say you want to retire at 60. Okay, how many years would that be? That'd be 40 years, right? Let's say you're gonna make monthly payments, so that would be 12, right? So you're gonna make 480 payments over 40 years. Let's say you get an interest rate of 3.5%. Yes. Okay, so 3.5% interest is not hard to find. You can do much better than that. Let's say you start with zero money. You have nothing in the bank. You go to your bank and you tell them, I want to start. Have you ever heard of a TFSA? Tax-free savings account? Any interest you earn on that, you pay zero taxes on. Okay? And let's say, how much do you think you can put in there every month into your savings account? I would say $300 a month is probably doable. Why negative, Mr. Erickson? Don't worry about it. It has to do something with the calculator, because money is leaving you. That's why. And so let's say after 40 years of you putting in $300 a month, how much will we have after that? Let's see here. Solve. You're gonna have $313,000 in your bank account, right? After 40 years of doing that. If you get a better interest rate, okay, so you can get 4.5. I don't think that's a stretch to get 4.5. You're gonna have to talk to an advisor about that. And then now you're looking at $400,000 if you get an interest rate of 4.5, and you put $300 a month away. I would say you could probably do better than that. Put $450 away every month. If you put $450 away every month for 40 years, you're looking at $600,000 in your bank account. Okay. There were times where I got 5% or even 6% on my investment. Okay. So what you do is you look up a financial advisor. Okay, and that financial advisor will work with you. Okay, so you'll be like, okay, I can give $450 a month. I can do that. Okay, so what they will do is they will take this money, and depending on your risk, they will invest some of this in real estate. They will invest some of this maybe in the stock market. So they will actually buy stocks of different companies. And it depends on your risk tolerance. If you want to go high risk, what is the downside about, the good side about high risk is you potentially earn more interest, but you also risk losing money. Okay. You can also invest in technology, tech companies. You can also invest in oil company, or just resources in general, wood, right? Like forestry, all that. So this is called diversifying your portfolio. So some of these might do really well, while others may not at certain times, but overall you still end up making money. Okay. So I'm not going to go into detail because this is outside of the scope of this course, but I do want to tell you, seek a financial advisor and do it while you're young. Okay, if you wait to save money when you're in your 40s and 50s, you don't have the benefit of time to work on your side. Do you remember compound interest in grade 11? Compound means like it's literally snowballing. So the earlier you start, the more of a snowball effect you will have on your savings, right? You can have $1 million by the time you're 60 if you invest wisely. It's not impossible to be millionaire by the time you're 60, but you need to say no to things. Right? You're gonna have to be disciplined, and then later you can buy the things you want. Right? Not now. All right. Anyways, complete side note. Right? Let's talk about land transfer tax. Listen to the podcast. You'll be gaining a lot of wisdom and knowledge there. Okay. The best comment he makes is you need to cancel your Netflix account. Not because it costs a lot of money, it's because it robs a lot of time away from you, because you cannot afford to lose 2 hours a day on Netflix. You should be learning stuff while you're young to make wise decisions down the road. Here we go. Land transfer tax. What's up with land transfer tax? It's a big, I'm going to say this, a big one-time cost. I will actually write this down. This is a big number, guys. It's going to be thousands of dollars. I didn't know about this when I bought my first house, and I almost had a heart attack. Why didn't you tell me about this? Because everybody just pays it. I'm like, yeah, but I would have liked to know, right? So, you pay this tax to the Manitoba Land Titles Office. At the time of the title of your home is registered. The land transfer tax is paid when the owner of the property changes. It is paid when the owner of the property changes. So the government would love if we all bought and sold a new house every year. Because every time you buy and sell, land transfer tax is being paid. If you stay in your place for 40 years, you only pay land transfer tax once, and then you don't pay it for as long as you own your house. Okay? The Manitoba government collects this as revenue, and the lawyer hired to do the transaction will ensure that the money gets transferred properly. Home buyers have to be aware of this cost, as it is a one more time here, I'm going to use pink because I use pink for that, a one-time large cost required before possession of the newly purchased home. Who pays it? The person buying. The person buying pays this tax, not the seller. Okay. The first $200,000 of the value of the home is taxed according to a scale. This is the annoying part about this scale, honestly. I don't know why they should come up with a better way of taxing, to be honest. But the first 200,000, I'm going to highlight first as well. The first 200,000 is taxed according to a scale. And then any amount over 200,000 is taxed 2% flat. Okay? Any amount over 200,000 is taxed 2% flat. This is the scale. And the province has told us that they will give you this. So you don't have to have this on your study sheet. However, I'm gonna say, you know what? Maybe you should. And this is why. I'll tell you why. This is the table they give us. They give you on the exam. And a lot of times folks, they mess things up because they don't convert properly. Okay? So, on the first $30,000 of the property, you pay 0 taxes. Obviously, as a decimal, that would just be 0. On the next 60,000, you pay 0.5%. What is 0.5% as a decimal, folks? Please make sure you have the correct number of zeros as your decimal. It's 0.005. And so I would encourage you to have this table and then have the decimal on the side, because that's where we make mistakes. 1 divided by 100 is 0.01. Okay, 0.01. 1.5%, it's 0.015. Like that. Make sure you write it down exactly the way you see it here. and any amount in excess of 200,000 gets 2% flat, which is 0.02. Okay. These are numbers that kind of you will need to use over and over again. So I'm going to use a bunch of highlighters here. This table, I made this line for you to kind of wrap your head around it. So it's basically saying that on the first 30,000, on the first 30 grand of your house, you pay no taxes on that. So let's say you buy a house for $29,999, you pay 0 land transfer tax on that. If you buy a house for $30,000, you still wouldn't pay anything. As soon as you go past the $30,000, you get taxed 0.5%, right? And so that would be, I will use green for that. So on the next 60,000, you pay 0.005 as a decimal. So this chunk right here is, so that gets you to $90,000 worth of property, right? And then the next part, on the next 60,000, you pay 1%. So on this chunk right here, you would pay 1% tax. What does this add up to already here? 30 and 60 is 90,000, right? Another 60 would be 150,000, right? And so on the last 50,000 here, you pay 1.5%, which is right here. Okay, so the first $200,000 worth of value is taxed according to this scale here. So it's not just a flat number. Every chunk is taxed differently, which is very annoying. Okay, for you, it's gonna be like, this sucks, right? And anything over is 2%. So what I do here is, I just tell you that anything that's $200,000 plus gets taxed 2%. I will also give you some numbers here. So maybe you just want the line. I don't know. So on the first 30,000, folks, you would pay $0. What's 0.5% of 60K? Let's do the math here. Well, 0.5%, if I divide that by 100, is this. I will multiply that by 60,000. So that would be $300 for this chunk here. Okay. What's 1%? This is mental math. What's 1% of 60,000? If half of 60,000 is 300, 1% of 60,000 would be 600. And then 1.5%, that's 0.015, right? I'm going to multiply that by 50,000. That's $750 that you would pay for this chunk right here. I will make a line here just so you understand. So if you had a house that is exactly $200,000, all we would have to do is add up these numbers. So 0 and 300 plus 600, that's 900, plus 750, that's 1650. So you would pay $1,650 if you had a house that is exactly 200,000, because you kind of fill up all these chunks. We're going to have to calculate, though, amounts that are in between. So it could be a house that is like 80,000 or a house that is 120,000. So anything in between, you're going to have to calculate exactly what the taxes are. And I've developed a system that works every time. If you just use it, you will be fine, okay? I'll give you one last note here before we do the math. I'm going to use this space right here. Note, land transfer tax that is based on the actual purchase price. So it doesn't matter if there's a down payment. It doesn't matter, guys. The government will look like, well, how much is this house being sold for? And that's what they will look at. Okay, that's what you're going to be taxed on. You can have enough down payment to pay the whole thing cash. It still wouldn't matter. You'd have to pay taxes on the purchase price. Okay, let's do a question here. Okay, what I need you to remember is it's 30,000, 60, 60, 50, right? That's what we're going to do here. We're going to use that extensively. So come with me here and let's calculate one. Calculate the land transfer tax amount for purchasing a house that is worth $385,000. Okay, so this is how you start. You start with the actual number and then start subtracting these amounts. Like the first one is 30,000. I'm going to start subtracting. You subtract 30,000. Okay, that would get you. You would pay $0 on that. Okay. The next amount. So let's actually calculate this. Use your calculator. I go 385 minus 30,000. That's 355,000 left. Then you say, hey, can I keep subtracting? Yes, I can. The next amount that I need to subtract is 60,000. Here, I will ask you to show the work. We pay 0.5%, which is 0.005. We're going to calculate that later. Okay. So go 355 minus 60,000. That leaves you with 295,000 worth of value still. Okay. The next amount that I need to subtract is 60,000 again. So I'm going to go minus 60,000. And on this, I pay 1%. So I will multiply that by 0.01. And I will get the number for that later. I'm going to continue my journey until I run out, basically. So let's go and subtract this. 295 minus 60,000. You're left with 235,000. What's the next number to subtract? The next one is 50,000, correct? Can I still subtract? That is actually the question you always have to ask. Can I still subtract? The answer is yes. I still have a lot of money left over. So I subtracted 50,000 from it. And this is multiplied by 1.5%, which is 0.015. Subtracted. That leaves me with 185,000. There's no longer anything to subtract. I've gone through my entire scale. What do I tax this amount by? And the answer is 2%. Because once you've gone through the 30K, 60, 60, and 50, if there's anything remaining, that gets taxed 2%. Okay, so we're going to go over here and go times 0.02. You can no longer subtract. We're done subtracting. We are just going to go ahead and tax that 2%. Okay, so what you want to see is, right, 0.5%, 1%, 1.5%, and then 2. You want to see that progression. And now I'm going to calculate how much taxes. Some of you are going to memorize this, but I'm going to go 60,000 times 0.005. So I pay $300 for this chunk right here. Then it's 60,000 times 0.01. That's $600 for this part right here. Then it's 50,000 times 0.015. That's 750. And then last but not least, 185,000. This one is going to hurt the most, the last piece, because you get taxed 2% at that point. Times 0.02. $3,700. And now you're almost there. You're almost there. So to figure out the land transfer tax, you simply add. You go 0 plus 300 plus 600 plus 750 plus 3,700. And when you add that all up, you get $5,350. That's a lot of money. Okay. And this is, I'm not making this up. This is the exact amount you would pay. So you can actually tell your parents, hey, wait a minute, I got you. Grab your study sheet. It's like, we're gonna have to pay this much when we buy our new house, right? It's like, what? It's like, yep, I calculated it. This is exactly what it is. Okay. Okay. We're gonna continue tomorrow. I'm just gonna say, if you could try, if you want to start trying already, 56, 57. Try to calculate property tax, land transfer tax, sorry, not property tax. And I'll see you tomorrow, guys.